Should you play Elementalist in Guild Wars 2? Well, I have a couple of questions for you. One, do you enjoy piano? And two, what were you expecting? Because if you were hoping for the standard mage archetype, well, you can still kind of pull that off, but it's gotten a little easier to pull off the basic mage archetype. But with this, if you're looking for just that standard generic caster, I would quite literally recommend you to look at Necromancer instead. Reason being, you'll see all of these buttons I have right here. These are my different attunements. This is a stance-based caster. Now, once I say that, you're probably going to click off the video already, so that's fine. Go look at the Necromancer one. Trust me, it's a lot more fun. But with Elementalist, this is an acquired taste, because it has the most flexibility and the most possibility in the entirety of Guild Wars 2. All of the options with Elementalist is absolutely insane. If we look at weapon skills, that's just the sword, because every single weapon has to have a dual skill option for one of the classes, or one of the specs that they added, one of the elite specs, which I believe is Weaver here, which allows you to weave two of the stances together. Generally, right now, for example, you're in one stance at a time, so I'm in Fire, because I've made a sort of basic Fire Mage. However, you can switch to Water, which allows you to heal and do AoE healing stuff. Air, which gives you movement and knockbacks and crowd control. And Earth, which will give you zone control and slows and a reflect shield and all these sorts of utility tools and whatnot that you can do some fancy stuff with. But most of the Elementalist builds that you're probably going to play are going to be generic Fire Mage, where all I do is throw fireballs. Or that's what you're going to be playing in the open world. And then that's where the fun part of Elementalist comes in, is the skill jump you're going to deal with. You're going to make your Elementalist, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, this is great. I love throwing my fireballs at things. This is fun. Everything dies. You know, I can summon a Phoenix? That's cool. And then you go to top-end content, you look up how to get better at Elementalist, and it's that you have to press every single button on the entire planet into this button, into this button, into this button. And now you're doing like a 75-button rotation just to be able to do what other classes are doing. By doing like one singular button over and over and over and over again. Now, like I said, the cool part about Elementalist is that I switch weapon to dagger, and now all of a sudden I'm playing a different build. It's the exact same setup, but my second weapon set is literally entirely different, with upwards of 20 different skills here. So quite literally, by the way, 5 skills per bar, 4 stances. So every single weapon has 20 skills. On top of that, you'll see with Catalyst, I can make an orb of sorts, which will allow me to create a combo field for my team that I can then go and do some fancy fun stuff with. Now, this will vary based on what builds you want to play, obviously, but be very wary of the Elementalist skill jump and skill gap. Literally, my mother plays an Elementalist, and she doesn't play all that hardcore, she plays for fun. And so she is unable to do any of the higher tier stuff because there's not really any low intensity Elementalist builds that will allow you to go and take on raids or fractals or anything like that with relatively simple styles. So do be wary of that, but otherwise, if you want a caster, how does it fare in that regard? If you want to play a fire-based mage, of course, allows you to do a lot of burning damage with the staff primarily. Or in this case, you can also use the scepter as well. The staff is a power weapon primarily, but can do a lot of burning, which I've made a full burning staff setup to then accentuate that even further and allow you to do stuff like mass AoE something. So for example, we would do 1, 2, and then a meteor shower over top. And then I could also do a firestorm. To have firestorm on firestorm on firestorm on AoE, right? Now, this is, of course, a for fun build, so you take this into structured content, and people will laugh at you, because you're not doing high enough DPS for what Elementalist is supposed to do in their mind. But that's why most Elementalist players get relegated to the support role, because you get to play a water stance, which is very, very easy. The water stance healer will have a lot of passive healing going out all the time, with the ability to literally rebound someone from death if you are playing Tempest. But Tempest, you can also do an AoE massive amount of heals, plus all the other stuff you have access to. And I believe they use like Warhorn and some other fancy stuff. I don't know. I don't play it particularly. I play Untamed for my healer, or Druid rather. But Is it a good caster? Sort of. It's very versatile. It's not really a mage of sorts, although I guess you can forcibly create it that way if you want to, but it kind of winds up restricted in that scenario. For example, if I were to show you my Aura Summoner here, this will allow me to do some very, very fancy stuff, like summon a bunch of elementals. So I have a glyph of elementals and then glyph of lesser elementals. Now this is where we get to some of Elementalist's really fun stuff, because those elementals will shift based on what stance I'm in. So if I want to make a tank elite elemental, bang, like so. And then we want to make another air elemental, because I got the little mini guy over here. Well, then we make one of those. And then we combine that with one of my weapon options here, which is a Sigil of Frenzy. So every 10 seconds, you'll get 2 seconds upon killing an enemy. You'll get 2 seconds of cooldown back. So then from there, we want to go around and just do all of our mapping and whatnot. And eventually, as we kill things ourselves, then what we're going to wind up with is getting even more cooldown, as you can see, off of our summons. So we can time it just right so I can have an army of different types of summons. So in this case, they're already killing something for me, cool. And then now that I've got the cooldown reduction, we can make ourselves a fire elemental. And just like that, I'm now playing an elemental summoner as opposed to an actual fire mage. On top of that, if we use our secondary weapons, we can use the auras that I was showing you before to aura buff all of the elementals on top of that, which then lets you do some very, very stupid stuff where you're basically supporting your team of minions. Now, like I said, you might not have seen this build before, because Elementalists allow you to make whatever you want if you want to just play around for fun. Like I said and showed you with the build options here, that's what the weapon skills look like. And every single one of these could be really cool. The dual attack for whatever this is, grinding stones, could be worth sitting in that split of Weaver to make your own specific unique build that throws the cool spell that I like, that does the thing that, you know, gives you serotonin. And, you know, you repeat that over and over and over again. Frostfire Flurry, for example, is something I'm looking forward to using, where you can use a pistol, and it'll do fire shots and freezing shots and whatnot. But I haven't used it yet. I don't know what it'll do. I don't know what I can build it with, or what pieces I can put together, and then all of these elements and whatnot, or all the glyphs will switch over based on the attunements. So it's definitely the class with the most flexibility. Is it the best mage? No. Is it the best spellcaster? No. Is it good at what it does? If you can play piano.